So when you're at work and maybe you avoid politics altogether, maybe it doesn't even come up. But in the break room, the news is on maybe, and or a debate comes up on the TV that's going to lead to something. And are there specific coworkers that you just have to avoid because they are on the other side of the aisle politically? 1/4 of all Americans say yes, indeed. They don't talk to some coworkers because of their political views. Think about what that does to workplace morale and stuff. So how do you fix that? Do you chat? Do you have roundtables? Do you just completely not talk to your coworkers? That can't happen. So let's talk to someone who is a helper, kind of a human resources type of thing, working with companies, organizations all across America on improving engagement within employees and the rank and file. Expert author of the book Pick Your Path. She is Elizabeth I'm going to get it wrong, Elizabeth.
Mahusai. It's all good.
Mahusai. Ah, my gosh. I knew I was going to do that. Hey, good morning. Welcome. It's good to have you with us, though.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me on.
I didn't realize this was such a big problem. Coworkers avoiding each other. Is this a new phenomenon politically?
I don't think it's new. I think that it is what I would call a growing phenomenon of folks truly avoiding, some people actually choosing to stay home rather than actually engage in conversation with people that have differing views from them.
Well, and that's kind of a new thing, too, because more people are able to work from home than ever before. We've heard those numbers before. So then maybe that wasn't even an option before. So that's new. So how do you, first of all, do you just do employers ban the discussion of politics at work? That doesn't seem like a viable solution either.
Well, I think so many leaders believe that it's probably easier to avoid the difficult conversations, especially when we're in a more divisive election cycle. But the challenge is that if we just completely avoid it, then we create a situation where employees feel very isolated, or they feel as though they do not belong, or they're not able to be who they are. So avoidance, while that is one tactic, oftentimes it's an unsuccessful one because people will end up finding a way, and oftentimes it will be an inappropriate way to actually engage. So I'm not necessarily agreeing. I know you were jesting about, a roundtable, but I think it is finding ways where we can cultivate what I like to call civil discourse, which I believe we just don't have enough of in our society today.
Well, and that's, you learn that as a kid, your manners and how to have a conversation, but we're so disconnected with everyone conversing over a screen and tapping different letters. Maybe that's something. Have you studied this? Maybe we've completely forgotten the art of conversation.
Actually, from a brain science standpoint, that parts of our brain that we do not use, ultimately we will lose if we're just going to put it, simply. So the fact that we have been able to hide behind keyboards, behind our texting, there's a certain amount of skill involved in engaging in conversation and being able to maintain our cool, being able to listen. Not to win an argument, but listen to actually understand what the other person is saying. So there is a certain amount of, because we've not been doing enough of it, we are lacking the skill in engaging in meaningful conversations in polite ways. So no, you bring up an excellent point. The brain actually is rewiring for so many people because they're not doing enough actual conversation.
There is an art to it of how to converse and how to get along. So what tips would you give to not avoid politics and other things? Because even how you raise your kids, maybe somebody raises your kids different. Next thing you know, you're in an argument about how you're raising your kids. What tips do you give somebody? How do you do it?
That's actually, it's a great question. Some ones that come to my mind right away are, first, it's really helping for people to learn skill and how to create some common ground. One of the things that I like, read a book, decades ago, seek first to understand, then to be understood. It sounds simple, but it is something that we have to proactively do. And one of the ways that people can really seek to understand is ask questions. I encourage the leaders that I work with, get curious, or even the people, it's get curious, ask questions. When someone makes a statement, rather than retorting back, it's more, I'm curious about that. Tell me more. What makes you say that? It's asking questions that allow a person to be able to share more than just what I'm going to call sound bites, which tend to elevate or escalate anger, especially when we disagree. So asking great questions and really asking with the intent of learning, not just the intent of responding, or I'll use the word retaliating.
Retaliating. There you go. We want to set our stakes in the ground and build our fortress around us. This is who I am. This is what I am. Deal with it. That's kind of our attitude now.
Yes.
We are all our own island, it seems. Your book, Pick Your Path. Do you deal with this on what is your book, Pick Your Path? What path am I picking, Elizabeth?
That's a great question. So I have a love of the brain. I've done a lot of brain research, and so the book.
Well, you picked the wrong radio host because I don't use mine a lot. Just kidding.
Well, good. No, I love it. So the idea of Pick Your Path is that we get a choice every day, and really within the day, every moment of the day, to pick a better path of thinking. And so it's 21 individual lessons that allow a person to look at, for example, a simple one would be, do I pick a path of positive thinking or the path of negative thinking? Do I pick a path of that's rejection or it's the path of redirection? So it's a way of helping people to think through thinking better. And that's why I love this topic of what's happening in our political climate, is that we are often so one-tracked in our thinking, and we have lost the ability to pick better paths of thinking, and then we just get into ruts. And it does not help office morale, as it were, talking about the political space.
You mentioned something that was classic a little while ago, to seek first to understand and then be understood. That's across the board on any kind of subject. And I want to be clear, what you're saying here is you don't give up any of yourself. I think if we feel like I want to understand you, that means we have to give some of our own self up and our own ground. No.
Excellent point.
No, you don't give any of you up. It's just you got to understand where the other person is, and they don't give any of their self up. Right?
I think that's an excellent point. That I think part of what's happening in our culture today is we want to make converts to our opinion, our beliefs, our values. And so people are expecting a fight, like that I expect you to release what you believe and only believe what I believe. Where when we can have civil discourse, we can actually be who we are. We can hold true to our values ourselves, and we can still show respect and honor for people who think and believe differently than us. So I wholeheartedly agree. Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons why people want to avoid it, because they expect that someone's going to try to get them to give up who they are and what they believe to move to another way of thinking, or a different way of thinking.
I got to tell you, though, Elizabeth, there are some folks out there that are not politically necessarily, but they're so out there just crazies. There's no way they're ever going to be in my wheelhouse. They're not going to play. They're not going to play on my planet. I mean, they can go and they can do whatever they want to do, but I'm going to be over here for a while. I'm just telling you.
Listen, I don't disagree with you on that. I certainly do not disagree with you on that. But I think that what's most important, at least to this topic, is that we want employees to feel engaged. Imagine how many more employees are working from home now than actually going into an office. So they already, in a sense, are on an island, which you mentioned.
Yeah.
And then when they're on, or they do engage directly with their fellow employees, and if they're not able to have civil discourse, now I feel even more isolated. So not only am I isolated because I'm working from home, but I'm isolated because I feel so disconnected from the people that I'm supposed to share a work environment with, to collaborate with in order to move a company forward. It really is something that we do not want to ignore because of the nature of how people are working today.
Her name is Elizabeth Mahuse. Did I get it right?
That's great. Great.
All right. Let's listen to what you say, Elizabeth Mahuse. And I just gave you a marketing slogan. I'm giving you that for free, okay?
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Find her on YouTube. Her book is called Pick Your Path. But, politically, it doesn't have to be a bunch of fortresses around the office place.
That's right.
You just gotta, okay, agree to disagree sometimes, and then let's talk about baseball or whatever. I mean, we all have to breathe the same air.
But here's the thing, people, that's right, they do. People talk about sports all the time, and then the very next day they go on about their lives.
Yeah.
And about their work. It's finding that common ground to be able to do that on the political in the political arena as well.
What's your podcast called? You got a podcast or two, don't you?
Yes, I do. It's called Thinking That Matters, because I believe when you cultivate thinking that matters, you can live a life that matters. You can build a business that matters. So between individual lessons and interviews that I do with entrepreneurs, leaders, I really look at and explore issues of thinking. That is my passion. So, yes, I would love for people to check that out and subscribe.
How in the heck do you ever find people listen to folks like you on my show, and obviously Elizabeth, first of all, there's no one like you, but to hear this and they go, how does she do that? How do you get started in a business like that? What made you want to get into this?
Well, wow, that's okay. So that's a great question, and let me give you
more than we have time for.
Yeah, exactly, the Cliff Notes version of it. I have a chemistry degree. And I love science, and ultimately we made a cross-country move from Florida to North Texas, and I tell people it was the hardest thing and the best thing that we ever did, and I had to come to grips with the fact that I thought that I had good thinking, but I really had to do a complete overhaul in how I thought as an entrepreneur, as a leader. And so as a result, over time, you want to, the older you get, I don't know how old you are, but, I'm a few decades in here, and you want to be able to give back to people. You want to be able to help other people with perspective. And I will say this, that because I'm so passionate about the development of our brain, that I do believe that we don't talk enough about how we think and how we can actually rewire our brain for better thinking. And so it's just out of that passion that I started writing and working on the podcast to help and empower other people to pick a better path of thinking. And so it's just part of my passion.
Yeah. It's your outlook. It's an attitude, and we get choices every single day. All right, Elizabeth Mahuse, I know I've kept you a while. You got other people you need to talk with. I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for being on with us this morning.
Absolutely. Have a great day. Thanks for having me on.
Yep. Bye-bye.